Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Friday Night Farts. I'm Speak to the Sky, and this is Moving Under Fire, and together
we're Godspeed Ministries.
Tonight we're going to continue our discussion about Indrid Cold, and I'm going to answer some questions that I've been getting from some people about his life. They know, what went on with my dad, and most of you know what's happening now. One thing you have been wondering, though, that I've been getting questions about is about his life and his family. So tonight I'm going to answer some of those questions. Are you ready?
All right, so some of the questions that we've been seeing are kind of about Indrid's family and stuff, and just jump right into it. I think that was the first one you had picked out. You want to just tell everybody kind of about his family, whether he's a great-grandparent, and whether he lives on this planet or not.
Oh yeah, he's a great-grandfather. Connor, his older boy, is now 68 years old and has one daughter. Her name is Coachella. And she has one son and one daughter. And they are Marilis, who is 16, and Maxwell, who's 12. Connor, his younger boy, is 64, almost 65. He has two children. There's Zena, who's 34, and Cameron, who is 22. And Zena has two children. One of them is Marilyn, who's 18, and the other is Xavier, who's 9. The girls always stay home, opted for higher education, but the boys take after their dad and grandfather, who went into the military. The name of their military is the Galactic Space Force. It's just like our Air Force. They just don't have any other military branches. They just have the one. And just a quick update on baby Kimlis. She's now 55 years old. And the last time I saw her, she was just a tiny baby in arms. She was able to get into the Space Force, where she met her husband, Drury. They have two children, Isaiah, who's 20, and Connor, who's 25. Yes, that's right, she named her son after her brother. Indrid doesn't really fly much anymore. He mostly stays home with kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. And he loves every minute of it, from what I'm told. He comes here every once in a while and visits me, but not like he did. He sends his boys and the grandkids. They come and visit me often, like he used to. In fact, one night I was sleeping, and I woke up and I had a whole house full, because he came with his boys, and they all brought their families. My room here at the hospital is so full, it's a good thing we only had one patient care tech that night, because she had no idea there was even anybody here. Nobody opens my door anyway unless I ring my light wanting somebody. They're all wonderful kids, and they love their grandpa and great-grandpa very much. And like I said, he mostly stays at home with them on Lanyos.
Yeah, so that's what we were talking about before we went live, because I thought maybe Indrid was living here in the mountains of West Virginia, but that's only when he comes to visit. He's in that vicinity to kind of keep clear of our government.
Right. Oh, yeah. Because, well, the boys have come down a couple of times and gotten a little too close and been spied on by an airplane pilot or a member of the military. And they were admonished against doing that because of the way our government, they learned about the way we treat our prisoners at Guantanamo Bay and the aliens trying to cross the borders. So they know now that they are not to even come near Earth unless they have to file and get approved a flight plan. So they have to have special permission to come down.
So you're talking about Indrid's kids, Connor and Connor, or even Indrid himself has to get special permission now to come down and visit?
Well, Indrid doesn't, but the boys, Connor and Connor, do. And so do, the great-grandsons are a couple of them are old enough. Even the girl, now that they're letting girls fly, they all have to have special permission to come down. And usually Indrid has to be with them if they're going to come down. That way they don't make any stupid mistakes.
Special permission from their Galactic Federation.
Their Galactic Council.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously our government can't be trusted and stuff like that. And I mean, I guess I could understand to a point if you see foreign objects in your airspace, you don't know what it is. Of course, you're going to be on high alert. But, you know, we've already discussed on previous shows that Indrid is the friendly, not even a humanoid. He's a man just living on another planet who has the ability to speak telepathically. And I think those are abilities that we could eventually have ourselves if we didn't drink fluoridated water or we didn't, you know, get encumbered by all the harmful health effects that this world has to offer, which may or may not come from our government. I think it does, but that's a discussion for another show. But so when they come to visit you, basically it's not just a drop in the bucket. It's a big deal. I mean, they've got to jump through a bunch of hoops.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a big deal now. As to where when I was younger, it wasn't a big deal. But now, especially with all these balloons or whatever, from wherever they're coming from in the sky, they're watching the skies very, very heavily for things like UFOs and UAPs, and you know, we've got this big council or whatever ourselves, congressional council on things like that. And from what I've understood, they think these things should be just shot out of the sky on sight.
Yeah, well, I've talked about that previously, and while we're on the subject, basically they're not Chinese spy balloons. They're American anti-gravity flotation devices. Basically, they have self-propulsion, and what it is, it's a canister that's inside of a rounder object. And the reason we know this, and we'll tell you guys more about it here on Night Frights, is Hugh Squire's story, and we'll tell you all about that man. He's given me permission to do a video with him today, but he's not feeling very well, and our government, of all people, and everybody that's affiliated with it, have done some very bad things to this man by the name of Hugh Squire. So we'll talk about that later. But sticking on topic, like I said, they're anti-gravity devices that can hover at 40,000 feet, and they're trying to make it look like they're Chinese to start to kick off another war with them, just like we're doing with Ukraine. So don't be fooled by it. It's not what they're saying it is. You can't ever trust the legacy media, and that's why we're doing shows like these to kind of give you guys information on Indrid being a friendly man and not these fake alien war that they're probably going to push out. What do you think about that? You think they're going to try to push out a fake alien agenda here about they're all bad and stuff like that?
I think eventually they will.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already said as much during those hearings. Remember those congressional hearings on UAPs?
Yeah.
They've already said that they're not friendly, basically.
Some of them aren't, just like people. They're good and bad. But the thing that I find interesting is, what was about 4 or 5 years ago or so, the Air Force came out and started disclosing. It was a soft disclosure of a few little blips in the sky, saying that they found a couple UFO aircrafts and stuff that defied flight characteristics, and they couldn't, capture them or whatever. But it was from sightings that were several years ago in the past. And it's like now even today they're starting to push more stuff out. Even the Air Force is coming out and saying, well, yeah, we've got more of these sightings but the thing is they're from the past. They're like over 10 years ago, or between 7+ years ago, and they're all of a sudden they're just now putting it out in our news saying, oh yeah, UFOs and aliens. Well, you've been sitting on the information, so we're preparing for maybe a fake alien invasion of some sort. We already know that there are good and bad, just like humans, dogs, anything else, and that's what we're telling you about. Indrid's one of the good ones, and he has reason to hide from the government. Well, a lot of people have reason to hide, really. I mean, we're in a war, World War III has already started. It's just not the way people thought it would be. So back to Indrid, since we got a little bit off topic. You've talked about his family members, some of his grandchildren and stuff like that, and great-grandchildren. Let's shift gears and talk about what else you've got on here that you want to talk about for the show.
I just basically wanted everybody to be able to get familiar with Indrid a little bit. Like I said, he doesn't come down very often to visit me anymore because he is 101 years old, and when he crashed and burned, 5 years ago now?
It's hard to remember. I want to say I was in the Army, so it would have been
2018.
Okay.
When
Well, that's right when I went in.
Yeah,
So
when he crashed and burned, it took a big toll on his body. And as he's aging, he said he can feel every bit of it.
really.
So that's why he doesn't come down very often unless Connor and Connor or one of the grandkids wants to come down. Because the grandkids like to come down, the younger ones like to come down and do things like shopping at malls and things that they don't have up there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the girls.
Eat macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, macaroni and cheese.
Well,
Go get a hot dog, you know.
well, we advise against hot dogs here because they're not made with the best ingredients. But
Right.
so anyway, you've talked in the past about him looking like a George Hamilton, right? Or
George Hamilton, right.
and we don't. I'm a little younger than you. I'm about 20 years younger. I don't know who George Hamilton looks like. So can you tell some of our listeners here what he might look like?
Indrid is about 6'3", and he's got. Well, if you Google George Hamilton, you'll see what he looks like.
Okay.
He doesn't look exactly like George Hamilton, but close.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that deep tan that George Hamilton always has. I guess what happened was Indrid's parents were actually from Earth. And his father worked at one of the air bases. I think it was Cape Canaveral.
Well, that makes sense. An air base, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cape Canaveral. And he used to sneak parts out to build his own rocket ship. Well, his rocket ship went up, but then it crashed on Lanulus. So it was he and his wife who started the planet. And then they were able to get other planets somehow, get signals to other planets that they were there. So that's how they got this intergalactic council started.
Well, okay, so let me back up a little bit. So we've got I think it's the Kepler Space Telescope that, if I'm thinking right, it could be Hubble, I can't remember, but one of those will find all these Earth-like planets out there. And we've heard this maybe about 7 to 10 years ago, back when I was in college and taking advanced astronomy, how we're finding all these Earth-like planets that are habitable outside of our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. And we've talked about Indrid living on Lanulos, which is in the constellation Ganymede, which you have said before.
Right.
And so with that information that you told me, because I didn't know that before, that would signify that maybe other people have been flying and finding hospitable planets and before we even knew about them releasing it from Hubble or the Kepler Space Telescope, all these habitable planets, that we've actually known about them for longer than we realized.
Right.
Okay, so
we're talking. It's been a long time since Indrid is 101.
Mm-hmm.
But so obviously, there's somehow his father had the know-how to build this spacecraft. I don't even think we had rocket ships built back then.
Well, I think that we did, but that's when they first came out. I mean, we had the thing with Russia and the space race and all that stuff back then. That was before my time a little bit, but
Right.
and we had the big Cold War fear on Russia and all that stuff, but
Right.
Sputnik and all that. But
Yeah.
I just think that, so we've talked a little bit about Lanulos, the planet itself, and what it's like, because I've read some people on Reddit or wherever, which Reddit is a garbage app, by the way. I'm just here to put that out there. They censor and they ban, and we do not support that. But hey, anyway, that one guy years ago said something about if you take Lanulos and you put it backwards, you get the word solionol, and that is like a death ray or something like that. I think it's like military weapon technology and stuff like that.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the first time I heard it. But with what you're telling me now, that Indrid his parents were from Earth and that his dad worked at an air base with the Air Force, then that kind of jives up a little bit. And I don't know, maybe makes some sense. Who knows? But there are tons of people on that planet. They don't have wars, and things are a little different there. It's a peaceful planet. You said they're naked. They don't wear clothes, right?
Most of the time, no.
Yeah.
In the winter they do because it's a little cooler.
So they have seasons too.
Yeah, they
there.
have seasons.
whatever sun they're going around in that constellation in Ganymede. But
Yeah.
it's just interesting and intriguing to try to learn more about it. You know, everybody focuses on the initial encounter of Indrid and your dad Woodrow back on November 2nd of 1966, which is a fascinating story, and it harkens back to the trailer that we've made here at the beginning of the show. I've had that since I was in the Army 2 years ago, and I just showed it to you, and you were like, well, let's use it.
Yeah. I thought it was really good. I really liked it.
Yeah, so that's from iMovie, in case anybody's wondering. I broadcast all my stuff through iMovie, but anyway, so that's a lot of good background information, not just on him, but also the planet itself. Is there anything else that you want to talk about here in this episode of Friday Night Frights for our listeners?
Honestly, nothing I can think of. I think in a couple weeks here we're going to move on to Bigfoot and Mothman and other things. If there is anything special you guys want to hear, because I'm going to try and have some guests on. I've already asked some people if they would come on our show. If there's anything you guys want to hear, just let us know in the comments section or message me at Taunia Derenberger on Facebook.
Yeah, we do have the Mothman Festival coming up in September in Point Pleasant, which is about 35 miles from here, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
on the Ohio River. And also, I'm going to try to get out the train derailment video that I just keep putting off and don't have time for. Once I quit my second job here, I'll have more time. But there's more than that than meets the eye. And there's a lot going on. And there's so much information on that. But also, just basically with the water. Anything at, Friday Night Frights that falls into that realm. So watch the water. That was what Stu Peters talked about earlier last year. So there's a lot going on, guys. We appreciate you staying tuned. And we won't completely give up on Indrid. He's coming back, but we might take a little bit of a break and focus on some other topics.
Yeah, I will tell everybody that I'm in the hospital now, but I'm supposed to be moved to a rehab facility out of town. So these Friday Night Frights will probably be done more with moving under fire, or we'll have to switch to my being on by audio.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'm getting a tax check soon. I'm hoping to get a truck so I can drive. She's going to be 14 miles across the river here in Coolville, Ohio. So, pray for her and hope that everything works out as she continues to battle this disease of multiple sclerosis, and also catch her show that we did last night, and the first of every month, that is MS Answers, first of every month at 8 o'clock p.m. And if you're ever interested in learning more about that disease. So, and then I think that's all we got tonight.
Yep, it is.
Okay.
See you next Friday. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, guys. See ya. Thank you.